Yeah. Why don't we get rolling with a short business meeting and then we'll get to our speaker. So, again, for those of you who have not yet gotten your food, I apologize on behalf, but they were incredibly gracious to sneak us in. So, how many of you like the idea of being able to have a meal and something to drink? Is that a good idea generally? All right. So we will try Sea Dog for the next 2 months, April and May. And then depending on how that goes, we'll just kind of check in with you all. And if you like that, we'll go there. The reason we're at Sea Dog and not here is that this building and these conference rooms are owned by someone different than the restaurant. Generally they charge $300 for a meeting like this. We got a bit of a discount. And they were able to accommodate it, but Sea Dog doesn't charge us anything. It's just whatever they make off the meals. So that's why we're at the Sea Dog, and we'll try that. So next month, unless you hear differently again, we'll be at the Sea Dog upstairs. All right. I'm just going to do a real short business meeting. Hopefully you got the newsletter that came out about a week ago. I'm not going to repeat all that. Tim Shaw's not here. He's down in Virginia, but he does have a plan that I briefly outlined for eDNA sampling over the next 2 years. We have the funding for that, and we should be in good shape. I know some of you volunteer for that. Tim will be back at the end of this month, and he'll be contacting people about what we're going to do, but that's very exciting. We are going to have another, last year we had a great mentoring program on the St. George. About 22 people showed up, we think. We had mentors for people that were new to fly fishing and new to the area. We had a great lunch. Terry Bombeck is going to head that up again. I don't have a date yet, but we will let you know as soon as we have a date, and we'll have a sign-up list, or you can call Terry. He and his wife Carmen are currently really tough to get out of New Zealand chasing giant brown trout. So next month, April, they're going to show you what they caught. I don't know if you've ever seen some of these things, but they're like this, and they're 24, 25-inch browns in crystal clear water, and they've done pretty well. So mark your calendars for next month too. But anyway, we'll have that mentoring. Grand Lake Stream, I think you know about that. We're going May 16th and the 17th. Steve Hirschberg is also south right now, but we have 20 people signed up. We are full. He does have a waiting list if you want to contact Steve and get on the waiting list. A lot of the food is already set up. We're going to do kind of family style stuff and try and eat together, or at least in the 2 different buildings we're in. You don't need to hire a guide, but if you want to, you can. That's on you, but there's enough of us going that fish that enough that we can be non-professional guides and at least point you in the right direction in which fly. We should be there at a good time. Misdirect. Pardon?
Or misdirect.
Oh, we wouldn't do that, Chris. No. Nice shirt, by the way. Fly Fishing Film Tour is Saturday, March 28th at the Waldo Theater in Waldoboro. Doors open at 6, films begin at 7. We're gonna have some folks there. I have a sign-up sheet. Actually, it's in my hand. If you could pass that around, there's some different things that we need. If you could sign up, it'd be great. This is really good. It really gets the juices flowing. These are documentary films about fly fishing from all over the world, and you see everything from permit to bonefish to Atlantic salmon to again New Zealand brown trout. It's just fabulous. We'll have a silent auction and a little bit of raffle, but it's not to make money. It's really just to kind of get the word out about Trout Unlimited and get people interested. So I hope you'll go to that. If you get your ticket online, it's $10. If you wait till that night, it's $15. But I hope you can make it.
What was the time again?
It's Saturday, March 28th. Saturday, March 28th. Doors open at 6. Films at 7. Yep. And all that information is on the Waldo Theater website. 4 or 5 months ago, we had a young man named Sawyer DeRoche who was here. young guy from the Waterville area who's a young guide. His dad was, I think, the head guide up on the Allagash. And some of us have already signed up to go fishing with him, either trout fishing or smallmouth bass fishing. He also does shad fishing. And I encourage you, he told me he's still got some slots left. Really good young man who I think is really into fly fishing, and he's a teacher at Waterville High. So if you're interested, just Google Sawyer DeRoche. He's got some trips available.
Yeah, you recommended that book on shad, so I bought it and read it. It's pretty good, so it's on the raffle.
Oh, it's a great book.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Pounding Fish, that's one of our raffle prizes. Okay, all right. We also got a book here, The History of Pierce Pond, where we took our outing last summer. Want to read about that? There's some good books here. For those of us who, I'm too old for this, but this one is Fly Fishing Through a Midlife Crisis. If any of you know, I'm never too old. You can kind of sneak it and not show anybody that you actually picked that one. Cow Camp, we already heard about. We're still looking for another student, and they need volunteers. See Stu. I handed out, I think, to some of the board members, a form to fill out. We need your volunteer hours for the fiscal year for Trout Unlimited. We have to submit an annual report. Their fiscal year is April 1st through March 31st. Not quite over, but you can estimate that. Just get those back to me if you would. That's it. Anything else? Again, thank you very much for being here and being flexible about where we meet. I'm going to ask Jim Robbins, one of our longtime members, to introduce our speaker tonight, because Jim knows him well. Thank you, Roy. And then we'll do the raffle.
My pleasure to introduce you to Tate Metzler tonight. Tate is Vice President of Stewardship for the Forest Society of Maine. Probably most of you don't know about. Anybody here know about the Forest Society of Maine? Okay, a lot of you do. Good. Their mission is to protect the working forest plus companies that like to grow timber and for the production of forest products and manage the wood sustainably and protect the natural resources that go with it. And it's a wonderful organization. Our company's had our land in it since 1996. And they do a great job. Jake lives right up here, just up the road in Lincolnville. And so Jake, I'm turn it over to you.
Sure.
Welcome, Jake.
Thank you for having me.
Hang on.
See if the color's any better.
Hey, do you want me to turn some lights down?
That would be a good idea. Yeah. It's lamp spinning up.
Good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. This is a great crowd to hear about a pretty exciting project that I'm going to talk about tonight. First, I will ask how many of you have fished the Magalloway River? Okay. How many of you have heard of all four organizations that are on the list there? Okay, that's great. All right, so next slide. Got my color, but I don't get the next slide. That's fine.
Oh, please.
So as Jim mentioned, I work for the Forest Society of Maine. I've been at FSM for over 20 years now, working on a variety of projects. Roy asked me if this is the biggest project that I've ever worked on, and the answer is no. The Forest Society of Maine has conserved almost 1 million acres across Maine. Some really big projects that I'm not going to talk about today, but burning green pepper is one of mine. We've worked in Western Maine, Eastern Maine, everywhere, but for the purposes of today, this is the project area that we're talking about. It's about 78,000 acres of the headwaters of the Magalloway, Parmacini Lake, Ziskahas Lake. There's a dam down here. But as you can see, one of the exciting parts of this project is its location in that it will connect served land in New Hampshire, what we already have done here in Maine. And it's also interesting because it's within a day's drive of all these, what those of us in the Northeast consider major cities. And so it's really ideally located as a nice conservation project that's going to bring a lot of different values. It has a lot of different values all in one place. So that's where it's situated. Next. Here are the four major organizations working on this project. And one of the interesting parts of this collaborative of all these projects coming together is we all bring a little different perspective, but we're all overall interested in what is going to come out of this project. So TNC is one of the partners that is helping this. They work globally, but we're working with the main staff who are very interested in this region, and I'll talk about that more later. Northeast Wilderness Trust is a regional organization. They work throughout New England and New York. FSM is statewide, and we, as Jim mentioned, are working to conserve forest lands for a variety of values. And then Rangeley Lakes Heritage Trust is the local connection to this project and is interested in many of the same values that FSM and the rest are, but they're working at that scale that's right out their back door there. So every one of these organizations has worked on major projects, and we all realized that working together would be really helpful for this project. So for example, one of the reasons that this project came together is that all these nonprofit partners and the land manager had worked on projects around the state together before, and we all kind of independently had identified this area as a place where we wanted to work on a conservation project, and the landowner was interested in it and said, hey, you've all approached us about doing this project. You should get together and talk and come back to us with a plan. And so these are examples of the different projects that we've all worked on, either together or in partnership with the landowner. FSM has worked on other projects with the landowner, but these are the most recent ones. So what you can see here is conservation in the state and the scale of the different projects that we had, these partners had worked with Wagner before.
Is Wagner the landowner, Joe?
They're the land manager. Yeah. There's an LLC that officially owns the land. Next. And yeah, anybody yell out questions if you have them along the way. Big picture wise, one of the reasons that the Nature Conservancy is interested, and all the conservation organizations are interested, is in the face of climate change, the Appalachian corridor is going to be a major travel way for species as they migrate north to cooler climates. And so what this shows is just that theoretical pathway for plants and animals and birds and everything as they move up the Appalachian chain. And what they do is they come right through this area here, up the mountains of Maine. Next. So for TNC, they were drawn to this because globally they've identified 4 areas around the globe that they want to make some major conservation investments, and one of them is the Appalachian Mountain because of that past graphic, and of course this project falls right in there. The next. So all that's the high level stuff. Here's the exciting parts of what this project has to bring to bear. So this orange and dark green and brown area is the project area. That's 78,000 acres. 11,000 will go to the Northeast Wilderness Trust in fee ownership. That means they'll own it, and the landowners are selling that to them for their future management. The orange areas are going to be owned by Rangeley Lakes Heritage Trust. Here's the Magalloway River coming out of the Parmachini Lake down into Ziskahas. So they'll own that. They'll own a area around the Little Magalloway River and some islands here, and then this area down in Adamstown next to land they already own, and the state has conserved too. So this is the separate pieces that'll be in fee ownership, which they will own that outright, make management decisions on those. The dark green is going to be a working forest conservation easement, which is what we focus on. FSM will hold that. And that's about 62,500 acres of easement that the landowner will still own and manage, but subject to terms, legal terms that they have to follow going forward. Part of the exciting parts of this project are we're going to have public access across this property maintained so people can go in there and recreate. There are extra level of stream protections that are being put on these streams that have been identified by IFNW as high priority brook trout habitat. So they'll have 100-foot no harvest buffer on each side of those to grow big trees that can do the thing that Roy's talking about. And we'll also have Rangeley Lakes is going to have the ability to do some stream restoration activities throughout this property, addressing some of the things that we heard about before in terms of repairing improperly sized culverts and making them bridges and whatnot. So yeah, those are the highlights. Next. So now I'm going to step through the different parcels of the project. Northeast Wilderness Trust, again, about 11,000 acres up in that northwest corner, up against another area of ecological reserve in New Hampshire. That is going to make a large conserved block that will have no forest management going forward, pretty remote corner of both of those states. And it has some unique ecological features there. The biggest is Ledge Ridge and Rump Mountain. And so going forward, there will be the ability to get in there, but it's going to be a much more remote experience. And will be passively managed and lead to older forests going forward.
What qualifies as passively managed?
Not harvesting for forest products, basically, not maintaining roads. So it's going to be kind of returned to whatever wants to happen there is going to happen there. Next. There's just, again, highlighting where that is in the scope of this project. Upper portion of that, pretty remote. Roads there now are pretty limiting. And then here's a picture that I took last fall of looking kind of southeast across Rump Mountain, which is right here. So it's the picture from this direction. Next. So the next piece we'll talk about is the Rangeley Lakes ownership. Rangeley Lakes Heritage Trust owns a pretty good amount of land around the Rangeley region, and this will be an additional 4,500 acres that they're going to own. Again, their plan is to manage most of it for wildlife habitat, but that especially that part down the southern portion, they'll be managing that for forest products to help support the management of all the rest of the pieces. So they'll own this piece south of Parmacini Lake, which we'll see in the next slide, the Little Magalloway River, which I mentioned, and some islands on the north end of Aziscahas Lake. Yeah. Next. So yeah, Little Magalloway River and branches up further, that will abut the new parcel. Here's again Magalloway flowing out of Parmacini into Aziscahas and these islands that they will acquire. And again, this one will be much more easy to manage for forest products going forward. Yep.
Could you explain the practical public access to some of those pieces? Because the last time I tried to get in there, I had to like ride my bike 5 miles with all my camping gear on the back, and it was, and there are people just driving into their camps.
Yes, I can talk about that. There are people that have camps around Parmacini Lake that have keys for the various gates that are there. That is not changing as part of this. So there will still be that opportunity to walk or bike or however you can make your way up into this area. That's still gonna be the same, for now. The landowner, is happy to keep those gates there. This is not a part of that's more of a management decision than it is, something that we're, focused on, but we know it's a reality, for some people. So there is a road, which is not on here, that comes right around here. And so you can get, this is, right about here is the Camp 10, bridge. If anybody knows the area, and that's an access point to get up the Magalloway there. And then these roads, this is a road on this side, this is a road on this side, and as long as those are still be owned by the landowner managing for forestry, so that still should be relatively open. And so, yes, the answer is access by vehicle, by truck or car or something is not gonna be significantly different than what it is, which is pretty limited on this upper part.
The bicycles?
Bicycles is, I would say, at your own risk. Bicycles and logging trucks don't really match very well. And so typically, it's at your own risk.
Because walking is impractical.
It's for some people are actually excited about that kind of adventure. Yeah,
Is there put in for hand carry boat type permission with the stuff in there?
there is not a specific put in on Parmacini for sure. There is a put in, there's a boat launch here on right about here on Ziskahas, and you can paddle up. This is all pretty flat.
Oh.
Past number 10 bridge there.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I ran into somebody who said they drove up and could drive over and back down the farm jail. Is that?
You can drive all the way around Parmacini, the Parmacini road that goes around like this. So you can go around to Ziskahas.
Number 10 bridge there. Can you go up from that side and then
You can,
head back over?
you
to
can
where
come
the
up-
Bosebrook camp?
yeah, Bosebuck is like right here, right? So you can drive all the way around.
Well, that's, okay. There
Yep.
go.
You just can't necessarily get north in a truck.
And that's where the little Galloway.
Yep.
Cross that.
Yep, this line is basically that road that goes around, because what I'll say is one of the reasons we're working on this project is to prevent future situations like this, where one person decided to buy all this,
Right.
and that's his place now,
I know.
around Bosebuck camps. And the same with this is another spot that somebody bought, and
That's a lot of land.
yep.
Were
And
those, sorry, are those parcels not part of this?
that's right, they're not part of this project.
Gotcha.
But they affect this part of this project because they were sold, and therefore they're, the landowner's like, well, I could get this, so. So those are the different pieces of the Rangeley Lakes ownership, portion of that. And these are great questions. Any other questions before I move on to what I'm most excited about? So here's the view from Camp 10 Bridge last fall. Gets pretty low. Here's the Ziskahas Lake looking north. That blue up at the corner, that's Parmacini, where we were just talking about driving around the bridge around this is the Parmacini Road. The lake, these are the islands that Rangeley Lakes own. It's pretty neat territory for sure. Next. This is one of the things that Rangeley Lakes is really excited about, and we're all excited about, is their ability to work on some watershed restoration projects in this geography. They've been working around the region on this, and here's an example of what they've done over on the Rapid, I believe is where this one was. And so they have the ability to do restoration, which is remove those bad culverts and replace them with bridges. And so that's one of the things that they're really excited about. And again, we all are, but they're the ones gonna tackle that, so good luck to them. Next. So yeah, the conservation easement, which is what my organization will end up holding, will allow for the landowner to continue to manage sustainably. There'll be public pedestrian access across all of those dark green acres. There will be some stream management areas where I mentioned these high priority brook trout streams that have been mapped by IFW will have this extra 100-foot no harvest buffer. Depending on how much they drain in terms of their watershed size. And then on the upper peak, they'll have a little bit more narrow buffer, but that's partly because of the fact that when they get small, they kind of branch out. And so there'll also be a special management area around Parmachini Lake that will also be no harvest area. So that'll be grow up to be pretty unique habitat there as well.
Jay, could you explain please what you mean by a 100 no harvest buffer?
Yep.
And why that's good for fish?
I can. So what this means is, so this is an example of one of these streams where from the edge of the stream, 100 feet up away from that edge, there'll be no harvesting that is allowed. That allows the trees to grow a lot taller there, and then eventually they'll fall into the stream, create habitat in that way, but they'll also provide major shading on the stream to help keep it cool. And so all of these that have been mapped as actually having brook trout will have that be afforded that extra protection, which is not what state regulations are today. You know, all they have to do now is leave shade on streams, and that's not that's open for interpretation as to what that means for what is left. And so this will build in some better unique habitat right on those shores. So 100 feet that way and 100 feet this way. In theory, that allows the trees to grow pretty tall, and they can again do that shading and then create that habitat going forward as they fall in and create pools. Reshape the stream much more naturally than maybe how it's been managed in the past.
How will that be monitored?
Great question. That's the job of the Forest Society Maine. And so what we do is go out every year and check what's been done. We have annual meetings with the landowners, say, what are you planning to do? Where are you planning to harvest? Are you planning to harvest near these streams? Remember that there's this buffer, and then we go check after the fact. So we go on the ground, we go in the air, we check with satellite and aerial photography to make sure that all of what they say they're doing, and that they are staying outside of those areas.
How much of it will be done from the air and actual boots on the ground? So I remember years ago, there was an issue, there was too much from the air and there was cutting near some tributary streams.
Well, we do it based on what activity has happened near those locations. So if it happened, you know, if they say in 2026 we're going to harvest near these, then that's a high priority chance that we're going to go visit that on the ground to check and measure too. But from the air, we can see the way that it generally works is we can, you know, ask them, have you harvested there or not? And then when we fly it, we can see if they've harvested there or not. Because sometimes they say they plan to, and then they get nowhere near the area, so we don't need to go walk on it. See that it's not harvested. And then, yeah, if it's harvested near the streams, then we go, and if it's close, we can measure. But we can also use GIS kind of mapping tools to measure from imagery and from what we've walked on the ground to see where we walked, is that within the 100 feet or not, as opposed to measuring with a tape measure every place that we walk. So there's a variety of tools that we use to make sure that that's being adhered to. And the next question is, well, what if they do go in there? And we pursue that to the fullest extent of our ability, which means we can take them to court with a violation situation. And we typically, when there are violations to easements, we usually don't get to that phase. We negotiate a resolution outside of that. So there are lots of ways we handle that. And we you know, and again, these are permanent rules that are gonna be in place, quote unquote, forever. And so even when this landowner sells, the next one has to follow the same rules that we, well, you know, we talk with them just the same as we do, this original one. Make sure they understand all these different parts and pieces. Next. Yeah, 60,000 plus acres is about 3 townships in total. All of this, dark green area, there are some camps along here on Aziscahas Lake. There's one tiny camp on Lincoln Pond. And then all of this area here. So we get out and drive around and meet with the landowner and talk about what they've done, like I said, to make sure that all of that is following those terms of that document. Yeah, next. So there's the shoreline, a tiny little bit of the shoreline of Parmacini Lake. Next. And Aziscahas last fall, as I mentioned, there is a dam on the south end of this project on Aziscahas. This has been a storage lake for over 115 years now. And so that water level goes up and down some, but there's rules in place about how that happens.
Who owns those water rights then?
Brookfield.
Really?
Is the entity that manages that dam. Again, that's storage. There's multiple lakes in the Rangeley region that are storage all for generation in New Hampshire. And they're at the tail end of a relicensing process right now, for anyone that's excited.
This all ends up in the Androscoggin then, right?
Yes. Next. So one of the things I'd like to mention, because we're the Forest Society Maine, and I'm sorry, the conversion from PC to Mac lost my fancy shadowing, so you can't read that as well. But this property, in continuing to be managed sustainably, will continue to produce forest products that go to a variety of places in Maine and the region. You know, spruce and fir logs go to Stratton, be turned into 2x4s. White pine logs don't come all the way down here, but they do go to Bethel and Dixfield to be turned into lumber. Hardwood logs kind of go to a variety of places all over the place, but everything from hardwood flooring and popsicle sticks to pool cues and pallets. Pulpwood goes to Rumford. This land used to be owned by the same entity that owned the Rumford Mill, so a lot of times in the past, that's where it all went. But that's where it gets turned into printing and packaging pulp material. And then firewood sold to local folks to use, and then biomass chips are taken to Stratton to generate electricity. So it's kind of the unseen part. You see the truck go by with the logs on it, but all of these things that are coming off this property turn into something that we all use. And so it's important to ensure that that can continue, support all these towns, along with the loggers and truckers and foresters that are working on this property specifically. So the reach of this property and allowing it to continue to be managed for forestry is wider than just that 78,000 acres. Thanks. So when Jim asked me to talk about it, he didn't know I was going to bring up fundraising, but the status of the project is that we have to raise $62 million by pretty much the end of May of this year. And we're about 80% of the way there. And so with that, next, actually the national TU has supported out of the Coldwater Land Conservation Fund $50,000 for this project, which is great. But they also have pledged another 50 if chapters, councils, individual members make contributions as well, and say that, you know, it's part of the TU matching. So tonight, leave this slide up here for just a second so you can jot that all down. But Magalloway.org/donate, and there's a box you can check for matching grants. So we have ability to raise even more money just by a couple of dollars that you might be able to kick in, or you can tell your friends they should kick in your name. So you can do it online, or you can good old fashioned send a check to Rangeley Lakes to let them know. So this is a really great opportunity that the National TU office has given that opportunity to help raise even more money than all of our individual donations. I don't know if there's another slide there.
Photo credits.
Oh yeah, photo credits. Yeah, a couple more slides. So yeah, photo credits, I have to put them in there in case this gets sent out other places. But a lot of those are pictures from the staff, but some of them are a little more exciting from actual professionals, especially those two at the beginning and at the end of the actual crowd. Next one. And yeah, this of course is a wonderful sign that I found out there. I can read that for you if you can't read that, but it says notice. Thank you for noticing this notice. Your noting it has been noted. And it has been reported to the authorities. You know, the one fun example, and that was somewhere over here. That was one fun example of random stuff you find in the woods. And so, yeah, that's the talk. And I can, one more slide and we can watch a little short movie, but it's pretty much going to say all the same things that I just did. But if you want to play it, you can, or if not, we can call it good.
Sure, we got
more questions.
We got time.
Okay. Yeah. See if it works.
Don't know if you can have for audio though.
It's just pretty music.
Oh.
By the way, while we're doing this, I want to thank David Perez for filling in for Joel and he's filling in for Doug, and David did not go south like they did, but David, thanks very much for working on the technology and everything. He was in a mild panic this afternoon because the screen he had pre-staged that we're gonna use tonight, it's behind locked doors and the two dogs. Thank goodness they got this one.
I may have to send this out after.
All right, sorry about that.
Questions?
That's okay. Yeah.
While we're doing it?
Any further questions?
Do you have anything you want to add?
No, we put a conservation easement on a township on Northern Maine back in 1996 with these people. And they've been great to work with. And when we first did, I was scared death about it. I remember Alan Hutchinson, who was the executive director, and I started talking about doing view shed management. I said, geez, we hit cut the trees, you can't just leave them all to look at. He said, no, you can do it. So there's an area up there by Middle Oxhead Pond, this big hillside, a huge hillside. And I've had several teachers do it up there. I like to stop them at that lake. Okay, so here's where we do view shed management. We think we should be able to cut that hillside, and they debate it for 5 to 10 minutes. And some say yes and some say no. And then well, just so you know, we've harvested that 3 times last 15 years. You can't see it. And they taught us how to do that. Wow. And they really do care about protecting the wildlife and fishing. On our easement, we saw white pine, that's what we do, we cut white pine. But along the lakes, we leave 5 superior height white pines for eagle nesting. And we have to be very careful what we cut next to the lakes and streams, big buffer strips. But they allow us to manage, and we do manage sustainably. They're wonderful to work with.
And you've conserved hundreds of thousands of acres in Maine.
Yeah. Well,
If you see a map of Maine, that their footprint all over.
yeah, it's about 870,000 acres that we've directly kind of conserved and continue to manage and monitor each year. And so yeah, we're a small but successful organization, and a lot of it has happened through partnerships like this one. Some not as obvious as this, where the 4 organizations are all kind of out there. But yeah, we're pretty proud of what we've accomplished, and there's plenty more to be done. Meaning that I have plenty of landowners. I have a list of about at least 15 deep of landowners that are looking to do projects from a couple hundred acres to tens of thousands and more. And so this is not the end of what we do. This is what we do, and it's interesting all corners of the state to bring these kind of solutions for landowners and the locals that use it, and people that come from far away to visit them. So it's a pretty fun little gig that I have to help do this.
Questions for Jake?
What happens if you don't raise the rest of the money by end of May? That's gonna happen.
What's gonna happen is that we will need to. There are several paths, but most likely would extend the time that we have to raise the money, but that's gonna cost us more money. We'd have to make more payments to the landowner in that time, so it ends up making it cost a little more or borrow money to do it, but we're very hopeful that we can get there. We've been working on this project like publicly for 2 years-ish. And to raise that amount of money that fast, it's pretty great. And so it's been the power of all the organizations coming together and making the point that there's lots of different values in different corners or across the whole thing that work for everybody.
One of the things I just wanted to say is, why do we care about this as Trout Unlimited? And maybe some of you already know this, many do, but the area that Jake's talking about is some of the best habitat for wild native brook trout in the United States.
Yep.
It's fabulous. And if we can protect those places where they can go and try to deal with climate change, where they can spawn, and get those buffers that are 100 feet back, it's not only shade, but it's preventing sedimentation and runoff and all that kind of stuff. It's just fabulous. I mean, that's what Trout Unlimited is all about. These kinds of projects. So for Maine, this is a big deal. This is the heart of kind of what we do. So I really want to thank you guys. I'm embarrassed to say I knew nothing about it until Jim mentioned it to me several months ago. I just didn't know it was happening. I was aware of Rangeley Heritage Trust because of the work they're doing on the Kennebago River and upstream, the Little Kennebago, etc. But this is huge, 78,000 acres. So it's great stuff.
Yep. And I mean, I could go on and on about the value of conservation, but one of the things we do try to talk about is, you work on these upper watersheds and it all, it builds for down below as well. So even, places that you're interested in that are not specifically in this project area are going to benefit as a result. It's all connected.
They've done a huge amount on the Moosehead area, too. Huge amount of land they preserved up there. I say preserved for recreation and working farms.
Super. Christine?
Yeah, so what's the Nature Conservancy's role in this? Is it financial or,
It's experience. It's also financial. They're the one that actually signed the contract with the landowner, says we will pay you $62 million.
okay,
So that's a pretty big obligation that they took on, but ultimately, yes, it's kind of all the above. And I should say, all the staffs of all these organizations get together and work on the project and the different pieces pretty much weekly. And so the role of all the organizations is to bring that power of everybody's experiences together to work through all the various issues that come up.
so they're not gonna own any of the land in
They are not,
Temple
nope.
or have an easement on it?
No, they are actually trying to get out of that
The ownership?
ownership model for them, especially now that there are other organizations that can hold these things. They don't feel the need to hold them as much as they did in the past. So yeah.
Dan, did you want to make a comment?
Well, I was wondering.
Ask people. See what they say. I think, Dan, if you're wondering whether we should make a contribution
Yeah,
to this project as a chapter.
Why not?
I think we definitely should. The question is, how much?
Well, before we go to how much, what do y'all think in general? It's a big deal. We're a small drop in the bucket, but
Is somebody gonna share their honey hole with us?
Don't mind
Just
driving the
for
bike
perspective.
7 miles.
just for perspective, we have a ground numbers, how much, David? 30 grand. About 30 grand.
I make a motion that we donate $1,000 to the cause.
1,000, okay.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that?
Make sure our Georges River Trout Unlimited gets their little plaque in there at the bottom.
Absolutely, I appreciate that very much.
We don't want dirt bikes, Jake, so we don't have to ride those motorcycles or bicycles.
We'll see.
Any further discussion on that before we go on? All in favor? All right, $1,000, we'll work on it.
Would that require the matching?
That will be, so that you just essentially, raise 2,000 for it.
David's our treasurer, so, he can figure out with you all how to do it.
I'll leave my business card.
Right, Dan, thank you. Other comments, questions, anything? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question about, the parcels that are now owned, by Newt and the Ranger Lakes Heritage Trust. Why were those parcels chosen for purchase and like land transfer versus just easement?
Yep. Because the way that those organizations work, they are land trusts that own land, and that's the way they accomplish their mission as best as possible. And so with Newt being interested in letting the forest just grow and go for it, you know, that works for them. They have the resources to monitor that themselves and acquire that in fee. So one of the things that this whole project is expensive, but buying land in fee is really expensive. And so everybody realized that we weren't going to buy 78,000 acres at $1,000 an acre or whatever it might be, but different portions of it made sense. So they wanted it for that to have a big connected piece with other ecological reserve in New Hampshire. Rangeley Lakes realized that these were high priority recreation and wildlife areas, and so they wanted some extra protection there and ability to manage that. And then this piece kind of disconnected from the rest of the ownership by Route 16 and is abutting other lands that they own. So they like that to think about future trails and management there to support that. So it's kind of all part of the conservation brainstorming about this.
Is the little Magalloway accessible?
Yep.
From
Marmchini Road. Yeah, that's a photo of the waterfall that I had from my slide is on this branch of the Magalloway. Yeah, middle branch, actually, where that is. Yep.
So Forest Society of Maine, with this project, has taken on a whole bunch of easement to monitor, and this is a small sliver of your overall portfolio of easement.
Yep.
And when you take on an easement, you're doing that in perpetuity. Those are big words, right? And it's expensive to monitor easements, even if you're just flying it. I mean, that's expensive. And then you gotta go put boots on the ground, maybe. You gotta engage in negotiations when things go sideways. So how does Forest Society of Maine generate those stewardship funds? And does that wax and wane when you take on a new easement? Does that keep you up at night? Does that make you uncomfortable sometimes?
Well, yes, it all keeps me up at night. But so the answer is that 62 million includes the purchase price for this, but also stewardship endowment for us to monitor this going forward. And we build that into all the projects we work on, so that we do make sure we're not taking on more responsibility than we can handle, because it is important and it makes it useless if we're not monitoring the easement. So that's the part of the protecting and ensuring going forward that we take very seriously at the town. And so, yes, every project we do, we have easement endowment along with that to help ensure that we have the staff. And when we complete this, we will actually be adding a new staff person to help not only with this one, but with several other projects that we're bringing online. But that's a great question and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Newbie question. The easement, does it last forever?
It does.
So if they sell, it goes along with it
Yeah,
forever.
it's recorded right in the registry of deeds and says this land has these rules from now on.
Yeah.
And so, future landowners will know that when they do their due diligence. And if they don't do their due diligence before they buy it, and that doesn't typically happen. Like the scale we're talking about,
Yeah.
people are pretty diligent about what they're buying. And this has not only that, but it has limitation. I didn't get into all the different parts and pieces of the easement, but one of the things it has is a limitation on how many times this can be divided. And so the parcel, this is 62,500 right now, but there are minimum sizes of how small a piece the landowner can sell and how many times they can divide it up. So it's always going to be in big chunks. And so, yes, it goes with every one of those landowners going forward. And usually what happens is people thinking about buying a piece that has an easement like this on it, call us ahead of time and say, so do I have this right? And we say, yeah, pretty much, or no, that's not actually how it works. Here's how it works. And so they know what they're getting into as well.
Yeah, I'd like to point out, people, one advantage of an easement, for them owning easements over the ownership, is that the landowners that maintain the easement still pay the taxes, maintain the roads.
Yep.
And do all the upkeep of it, but when they take over fee ownership, they absorb all those costs.
Right.
So it's a trade-off. Yeah, we pay a little less to get the easement, but we accomplish most of the conservation goals that we're trying to accomplish by having that relationship, and they still make it to get advantage of it.
And the landowner is what, reducing their costs overall because.
They're capturing value that they otherwise wouldn't, like, in theory, they
Yeah.
could sell this for development or chop it up in all those blocks.
Right.
But that's a pain in the butt sometimes, or whatever. So it's value that's, you know, the property has value, but to realize that value is cumbersome.
100 years.
Right. Instead, they say, hey, you'll give us this much money now and we don't have to think about that anymore, then great, we'll do that. So the goal, if we do this relatively right, is that they don't have to change their day-to-day management very much, but they have captured value that was otherwise kind of just sitting there. So it works for both. Yeah, no, this is a great question.
Jake, have you been in contact with the TU State Council or any of the other chapters? This is great.
So the answer is there is an effort to talk with other chapters and the state council, and I will be reaching out to them. They've already been reached out to from a fellow in New Hampshire because as part of that national grant, they agreed to give presentations.
I'm happy to help them.
Yes, thank you.
Other questions? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you, Jim, for putting on this. Any other business before we get to the raffle?
I just say that I'm putting over here, I have materials about the Magalloway project, our newsletter, and I'm gonna put my business card. So if you wanna more secretly send a check. More follow.
Great job.
Yeah.
Wonderful project. Hi,
What's your Venmo?
Yeah, right.
Terry Young, are you ready for, to do the
You
raffle?
want somebody wants to Venmo, I can take it.
So the way we're gonna run the raffle is, when Terry starts talking, we'll pick some numbers. If you come up here, anything here on the table, is for game, you get to choose one. You have about 10 seconds and then we'll call the next one. So, well, I'll put it over when you go. Terry, you ready? Yeah. Okay, go for it.
Oh, it's mine again. 978.
Yo.
Woo!